Welcome to the Tile Happy Hour. It is that time of the week where we sit down and we talk about tile, stone, and all the good things that are happening in the industry. I hope that you're having a great week and you're loving what's going on. This week has been crazy, and my good friend John Tedesco is here, and he is, spring has sprung, John, down here in the South. We've almost gotten rid of the pollen. We had a good rain. How is it up north where you are?
Well, it was a rainy weekend this past weekend in New York, but today it's a little better. Glad to be here. It's spring, and we're moving forward. I'm excited to see you, Craig. What's happened? Happy Tile Hour.
Happy Tile Hour. Happy joy, as that cartoon used to say. Yeah, it's we've had so much going on lately.
Yeah.
I was up with you doing a couple of spots. We had a time in the New York showroom on St. Patrick's Day, and just some good things happening in the world. But if you read the title of the show, we're going to talk about tariffs today, and probably not the way you want to talk about them. John and I, we're just tile nerds. We don't know. Well, I don't know. I'm not going to speak for John, but we're not going to get into Democrat, Republican, and the thing of it all. But when I proposed this to John, I was really thinking about how really the tariffs have got me thinking about the industry and how it's affecting the industry, and
Right.
then kind of what we as tile professionals can control.
Yeah, it's a great topic. Of course, everyone is interested, and it's developing. It's evolving, I should say, daily, hourly, minute. It's something that impacts not only the tile industry, impacts the entire country, impacts the world.
Yeah,
it does. And we do have some insight from a personal perspective. We don't have any inside scoops or top secret.
What do you mean? You don't have the red phone on your desk?
Nope,
the direct line.
Right. But we do have some insights, and I think you'll be, pleased to learn that that we see a way forward. We see see the future is going to be bright. So what are your thoughts, Craig, lately on the tariffs?
Well, my thoughts are it's changing so fast.
Right.
And I want to reiterate what you just said. It's about the perception and what we can control, and a McRib sandwich, John.
The what?
Yeah, a McRib sandwich. I don't know. I came up with this. I have my best and worst brainstormings about 4:30 in the morning.
Okay.
When we talked about this topic, and John, you correct me if I'm wrong. This is probably the first time we've really gotten topical, like in the news, topical on the show. And what prompted my idea was a phone call that we'll talk about that I got yesterday afternoon.
Not only are we topical, it's the first time I think I have to check back in our archives. The first time we're talking about McRib sandwiches, I think. I'm not sure.
Yeah. And I promise they'll all meet together at
Do you have any visuals? Do you have anything we could see?
Hold on.
You do? Wow.
That was a quick. That was a quick one. I don't want to give it away, John. You gotta, we gotta tease. Can't give it away.
That was subliminal. All right.
Too much. But one thing I do want to give away, not give away, but talk about is coverings is coming up, John. I know I was working this week trying to get my hotel squared away, trying to get my flight squared away. It is my calendar's right here. April 29th through the May 2nd, coverings in Orlando, Florida, the largest tile and stone show in America and maybe the world. I don't know. You tell me, John.
Yeah, it's a great show. The covering show is fantastic. There's usually about 1,000 exhibitors from dozens and dozens of country, all representing the tile industry, primarily tile manufacturers. There's a lot of ancillary goods, a lot of supporting goods like setting materials and tools and cutting machines, some services. But I would say, just going to guess, 75% is actual booths of manufacturers that manufacture tile. There's a big Italian section. There's a big Spanish section.
Mhm.
There's a big China section. There's made in the U.S. a big section. So and big Turkish section. So there's really the whole world is represented here. I've been to the show. I don't know if you know that, Craig.
Every time it's
Yeah.
happened. Yes, yes. I
So, yeah.
don't know that you've ever said that live on the show, but I mean, let's
Oh.
mark this down.
All right.
Whatever. I don't have a calendar in front of me. I don't even know what day it is. But the Tile Happy Hour broadcast weekly. But John, for the first time, has mentioned that he's been to every covering show.
Every single covering show since it started. I guess it's over 30 years now. So it's been an amazing ride. But I've been to the show in Italy, which is the Trevisama is Spain.
Trevisama, Spain, and Trisai is Italy.
Yeah, so Trisai is Italy, and those shows are great. But what's interesting about those shows primarily are the Europeans are going to those shows, and there's some, like I was the minority when I was there, attending those shows. In the U.S., of course, it's all U.S. based. So not only are the importers coming, but the dealers, the contractors, the designers, the architects that are based in America are attending the covering show this year.
They're not showing though. Is that right? Like I can't think of any. Like Crossville is not showing at Trisai.
Correct. In Italy, it's those companies are not there. So, but here in the U.S., I would say that all those people I mentioned, from architects, designers, dealers, installers, are attending the show, checking out all the booths, and it's back in Orlando. And Orlando is kind of, I don't know if it's official, but to me it's the home base for the covering show, because it's usually at Orlando maybe once or twice, and it jumps to Chicago, jumps to Atlanta, jumps to Vegas. There's really only, I would say, maybe I'm going to say around 5 convention halls in the U.S. that can handle the volume of the show.
Right.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is it's a big time, and our topic probably will be on everybody's lips at the show, because this is where distributors around the country will try to buy their inventory for their showrooms at this show. And if they haven't gone to Trevisama or Trisai, this is the place they go to make deals. So this topic is going to, I guarantee you, be on everybody's list. One of the things, before we stop talking about coverings, as a tile nerd, there's a ton of education there. So if you are slightly interested or want to get more education on the tile and stone industry, show up at coverings. And it's a very small fee to get a ton of information. CTEF will be there, and they're the Ceramic Tile Education Foundation. They'll be training tile setters live. The NTCA will be there, and the TCNA, acronym soup, and they're the ones who kind of write those rules for the industry. Ask questions. There's a ton of people that want to answer your questions. Also, John and I will be there doing our podcast on Wednesday at noon in the podcast studio in the South Hall. So if you are there on Wednesday, please come listen to the podcast live. Meet John and I. John will probably tell you this is the 50th. First time he's ever been to coverings. I don't know, but come say hi, and maybe we'll have a giveaway for you.
Yeah, I'm real excited about the podcast studio. It's dear to our hearts, because when we started this podcast, one of our objectives was to be invited to participate in the podcast studio at coverings, and we were invited like right away. This is our 3rd year, I think.
Yes.
3rd year doing the podcast live. So yeah, South Hall, out of the podcast studio. If you're in coverings, it's a perfect time slot. It's like Wednesday. It's dead center of the show. It's like really, people that are coming early to the show will be there on that Wednesday. People who are coming late to the show will be there on that Wednesday. So it really is amazing. So yeah, we have a studio audience. Come and check it out. And
bring your lunch if you want to. Have lunch with us and listen to some good conversation. Once again, John and I are gonna talk about the importance of social media and in our industry.
Yeah, and one more thing about the coverings show. I love when the contractors get out there, and a lot of them do not. only because, you know, their business is built around them being on a job site, and they got crews, and they're usually, you know, hands-on on these projects. And I really admire the guys that recognize that attending a trade show like this is important and can help advance their careers and their companies, and they actually take the time to attend. It is not easy because a lot of the installers, you know, are smaller type bucket and trowel guys running out of a van or two, and there's larger contractors, of course. But the covering show is, it's, you go there and you feel like, I see these guys and they feel like they never knew that what they did was part of such a big thing. They were just like, they learned tile from somebody, their father or someone in the family, or just happened to be a helper, and they turned into a tile guy.
Yeah.
Now they have a tile business and they're feeding their family. And that's all they're doing. And they go to this show for the first time, and it's like, oh my God, like this is home for me. And
yeah, I'm a part of a much larger family.
Yeah.
The
And you
tile
could,
and stone industry.
Craig, you're right. Like how many booths can they stop at and talk about grout?
I don't know. There's never enough, John. There's never enough.
Right. And I'm sure at home their spouse just does not want to talk about grout anymore.
Yes, I have a wife of 25 years, and she doesn't want to talk about grout or tile or how many projects I've worked on. But
yeah.
This is your time to talk about it. Find nerds like John and I, and we'll be glad to discuss your project. If you got a problem, just to brag on yourself, we want to be there with you because you're part of the Tile and Stone family. Coverings 2025, May 29th through April 29th through May 2nd.
Right.
Orlando, Florida. So come and see us and say hello.
You were looking forward to seeing you.
Yeah. So if you've been under a rock and you haven't noticed, there's been some change in the economy over the last few weeks, or we might as well just say since the first of the year.
Right.
And tariffs have become a popular word, whether you like them or you hate them, or you think we're going in the right direction or the wrong direction. The reality is they've changed things. And what kind of got me thinking about this is I had a call yesterday from a client, and they had a large bid. It was a 22,000 square feet project, and they were wondering if the tariff was going to affect their bid. Okay. Because they bid it before the tariff started. So they called and said, hey, we've got this project, we've got this material, and is it going to affect me? And I knew the contractor well because I used to work there. And I said, well, let me find out for you. And I made some calls and found out that the product that they had priced was a domestic product. So right. Their pricing should hold. So good news on that point. But that got me thinking about, what if it wasn't?
Right.
And how does that affect the industry? And how do you, as a tile professional, whether you're a contractor, a distributor, or a manufacturer, kind of navigate those waters? Obviously, John and I work for a distributor, and we're seeing things probably on the daily. I know I have, John, about price changes, things to look out for. And we're trying to navigate that. Number one, to protect our business, to protect our customers. And I started kind of wondering to myself, okay, how should we handle this on the different parts of the market? So, John, knowing that and not knowing anything before right now, what I've just said, what does that bring to mind to you? And what's your thoughts on that? Oh, you've muted yourself, John. And you're still muted. All right, we got John's audio squared away. John, do you, what's your thoughts on that, and how to handle maybe bids and things of that nature when they happen?
Yeah, well, I mean, the most important thing for anyone in the industry to know is that whatever is happening in this industry or any other industry, be it tile or toys or game boards or whatever you're selling, it's impacting everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody should get too stressed out of the fact that they think that they're going to upset the person that it's impacting. Not only does it impact you personally, perhaps it impacts, the buyer or the owner of the building or whatever, or the general contractor. But it's everybody. So it's nobody's trying to take advantage of anybody here. Everyone's on the same level playing field. So that's the biggest advice I can give to anyone, is even though it's stressful because it's just added layer of things you need to address. Secondly, there's a lot of people who have inventory on hand. So there are companies that have products that are here that, didn't get the tariffs. And then there's products that are perhaps on the water, and there's products that haven't arrived yet. So the most important thing, and the first advice I would give, is just to communicate to whoever is in your circle on this project to say, hey, I need to take a look at what's happening, see if there's anything that impacts my project. Does that make sense to you, Craig?
Yeah, absolutely. And you will, as a contractor, I would get those, we all have price increases over time. Everything gets more expensive. I don't know. I mean, you're a lot older than I am, so maybe a certain amount of time that prices actually went down. Most of the time, prices don't actually go down unless it's a commodity. But I've had those owners that'll call and know something's going on in the world and say, well, you expect me to pay for this? Well, yeah, because logically we're all in this together, and it's just a matter of taking it into context and serving your client, no matter who that is. If you're a contractor, it's the GC. If you're a GC, it's the owner. If you're the owner, it's the developer, whatever. And communication, quick, accurate communication is probably one of the best ways of pushing through uncertain terms.
Yeah, I guess this reminds me just a little about energy surcharges, right? So were you going to say that, Craig?
Well, I have it on my list as something to talk about, but go ahead, and then I want to tie that in.
Yeah, so tying it in, it's different than energy surcharge, but it's the most relatable thing to it. The difference with the energy surcharges, it wasn't very clear because someone was raising gas a lot here and a little there, and how much is your truck actually increasing the cost, and it turned out that, and it's kind of the running thing in our industry. I know some of the people in the field that I'm in, some of my, let's call them competitors, have an energy surcharge like still on when gas was 50% more money, or so, and it's kind of they kind of charge that fee and then get very comfortable in collecting that fee. So it's currently, the tariff is very clear. Whatever it is or isn't, it's a specific percentage. It's across the board, and it exists, and it's notable, and it's documentable. Energy, everyone says that if you're in California fueling up a truck, it's probably a lot more money because there's taxes that are a percentage of the cost of the gas, and if the gas is higher, then the taxes become higher. So it's much cleaner than the energy surcharge issue. The tariff issue is something that's very clear, and clear in the sense that it's just a very specific number. And I feel that the communication that people have with their projects is so important. And I also feel, and I'd like to get your input, is I feel that this is going to come to a head. It's going to kind of be, let's call it, resolved in short order. Of course, when you're in business, every day is like
that's right,
a long day, right?
Well, and I think especially the construction industry, because normally our construction industry in America normally ramps up right about now, because we're getting ready for the summer. I agree with you. I think this, and I've got no crystal ball, but I think this is a short-term issue. I don't think we'll be talking about tariffs come fourth quarter. But who knows? I mean, John, as I was doing some research on this, who do you think is our largest importer? No, not importer, exporter of tile to America?
Who sells the most tile? What country sells the most tile to the
What
United
country
States?
sells the most tile to America?
I'm a little skewed because my history is so deep within the Italian tile industry. It feels like Italy.
Okay.
I know Spain is close, so wherever Italy is, Spain is close. China is on my mind, but not quite sure about China because
Well,
things have changed.
what would be your top three, you think? I want to see if you get it right.
I would say Italy, Spain. um, I'm going to. I don't know if I'm going to say China. I'm going to say Turkey.
Let's see. Italy, Spain, India.
Ah,
Yeah, I was, as I was doing this research, and I'm not sure what the tariffs are on any of those. And if you're not listening to this live, it's going to probably change tomorrow. If
right.
you're listening to it live, we love you. Please put in the comments where you're listening from, and if you got a question for John and I, we'd be glad to answer it. I don't know anything about world politics. I'm just a tile nerd, but this in 2024, these were the largest importers to America for ceramic tile. I didn't
Right.
put stone in there because it started to skew things a little differently. But the one glaring thing to me, which if you've heard the term tariff in the last 3 months, you've heard the country China. China's not on this list.
Yeah, pretty interesting. So, and I guess the story goes back to why isn't China on the list? Because I think they were probably higher not that long ago. I know that a lot of companies import stone from China, and you can get white Carrara mosaics that are from the mountains of Carrara, but you're bringing them in from China. Like, what? That doesn't make sense, right, Craig?
Yeah,
But
but it
if you go
happened.
to if you go to Verona, you see trucks of blocks of stone driving down the road, heading not to the factory to cut them up, heading to the piers, and they're going on a boat, and that boat's going to China, and China is actually processing the stone. They're cutting it into tile and mosaics. Now, look, years ago, China was known for like really poor quality, and they have the ability to produce quality products, particularly because I've always kidded around. You go to China and you have a factory. It's usually a person from China walking around looking at stuff, but I always kid around as an Italian guy in a white lab coat walking around pushing the buttons because all the machines are Italian.
That's
so German has some good machines. Germany has some good machines too, but the Italians really perfected a lot of the tile thought. But tariffs impacted that chart that you had a few years ago.
Yeah. In 2019, there were some tariffs that were applied to China, and I think those 2019 tariffs really maybe could kick them out of that top 10.
Yeah, they were so unlike what's going on now. Right now, they're talking about broad-based tariffs from X country. This is a tariff. In when things are less volatile, when in the normal course of international relations, tariffs are very pinpointed to: is it a tile? Is it glass? Is it ceramic? Is it stone? And for different reasons, as rationale applied, competition, are they dumping? All that stuff.
Hey, tell me what the definition of dumping is. I hear that a lot. What is dumping and anti-dumping?
So dumping is so let's use China for example, and let's talk about the steel industries for example. So at one point, China said, and I know this, I was in the meeting. China said, we want to own U.S. steel business,
right?
And the U.S. steel, Pittsburgh, etc., was very strong, and China decided to sell steel to the United States at a price so low that steel manufacturers here could not compete. So if you're building a skyscraper and you get a quote from the US, you get a quote from China, you're like, I have no choice but to go to China. How did China do that? Well, Craig, they did that because apparently I don't want some Chinese, national be knocking on my door any day. I'm going to say allegedly.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, they are kind of subsidized by the Chinese government,
Okay.
and they didn't have to make a profit. They were just more concerned about. They were focusing on getting the price so low so that the U.S. Steel didn't get that business. And then what
And they
happened?
just really did that. I guess just by the labor being that much cheaper. You think?
No, I mean, yes. If you're selling or making a product in another country where labor is really cheap and you have a really labor intensive type of product, if you're making sneakers where you have to cut and sew and put things together, I could see that being a big factor where the minimum wage per hour is so much less than here. I suspect in the steel industry, it's more automated. I just suspect it's the fact that the company was willing to sell it at a loss. If you were a private company, had to make a profit.
And that's where the dumping term comes. They're really
right.
dumping it at cost.
So you're kind of just dumping it here at a loss or at cost or at a margin where no one else could, even adding the shipping, because steel is pretty damn heavy, even adding the freight and
it was
to
still
the
cheaper.
US, it was still cheaper to buy it from outside of the US. So what happens? Then the factories in the United States start closing. And then the other countries that are dumping could theoretically start raising their prices because the competition's not there. So by dumping, they're doing it just a structural damage, pardon the pun, to the steel industry.
Yeah. Well, here's some numbers that I thought was pretty interesting. So since that tariff in 2019, the ceramic tile exports from China were 1.19 billion square feet in 2018. And then they estimated they've dropped to 20 to 50 million in 2024.
Yeah.
So
contrary to what people,
that's a significant downturn.
I didn't realize it was that much. So as I think about it, Craig, and I'm kind of educating the people listening, and I'm kind of realizing it myself as I'm saying it, is if I'm thinking about the tile industry, most products from China in the tile industry are mosaics of some sort, and a lot of them are stone, and a lot of them are a stone from Greece, a stone from Italy, right? That are sent to as a raw material in block form to China, cut up, put on sheets. So that part of the industry is definitely going to be impacted. But so what happened, to kind of segue to why you brought that chart up, India was kind of targeted as a good alternative to the Asian market, the Asian manufacturing industry, to have plants develop in India. So that's what happened. A lot of the imported lower cost tile was shifted to India. And
you can see that on this chart where you look at the amount of square footage, which is the blue column, versus the cost, which is the orange column. So it's almost 400 million square feet and a cost of only
the value. So that
the value's down. And you look at Italy, where it's not as much square feet, but the cost is there because of the implied Italian quality.
Right. So, I mean, theoretically, you can make good quality tile anywhere in the world if you want, if you have access to the right raw materials and you have the right technology. So I guess India could decide, let's be the high-end tile of the world, but they decided to be the lower-end tile of the world for mass-produced products because, the Italian and the Spanish has the cachet of made in Italy, right? So if you make the most...
There's a brand. They have the brand.
Yes, you can make the most incredible tile and then stamp it not made in Italy or not made in Spain. You kind of lose a little ability to mark it up a bit. Exactly. So the Italian and look, things that are made in other countries are usually designed. You see often a suit, hey, designed in Italy but made over there. So, but I'm a little surprised. I'm a lot surprised. That's really well English, I know, about that chart that India is. I guess I'm not surprised that it's number 3 now that I thought about it and saw it, but I was surprised at how much the volume was and is. And so how does that impact? So what do you think the impacts would be in the future, Craig, on on the industry,
Yeah.
just psychologically?
Okay. Well, the best way to judge the future is by looking at what?
I mean, they say look at the past. I don't know if I believe that, but go ahead.
Okay. Here's my thought. I remember when I was getting out of college in the early 2000s. No, I got out of the late 90s, but I started my tile career in the early 2000s.
Right. Okay.
Do you remember what was the big thing on the market in our industry, the construction industry as a whole? What was kind of taking over all of the talk? Do you remember what that was at the time?
Pet rocks, I think.
No, it was the Green Initiative. And the top thing in America was LEED, LEED. And I remember in my last semester at school at the University of East Carolina, Pirates, go Pirates if you're a Pirate. Construction management, that they kind of touched on that. And when I started in the tile industry, it wasn't a great big deal. But a few years down the road, being LEED certified was important. And then I remember the next year it was like finding LEED credits. Did you deal with that a lot in your book of business?
Yeah. There was, when it first came out, the Leaders in Environmental and Energy Design, I believe, is the acronym. And
I think that's right.
It people want to be socially responsible to the earth, right? And you want to be responsible, and so the initiative is good. And of course, when anything relatively new comes out, there's ways of gaming it and scamming it, and there's another term. You know what term I'm thinking?
No.
Greenwashing. Have you heard of that?
Yes, I've heard of greenwashing.
So greenwashing, let's attribute it to you buy fruit at the supermarket and it's organic and you're paying more.
Yeah.
But then they put a label on there that kind of infers that it's organic, but it's not, and they're kind of like greenwashing it. So they was doing that with products. They were kind of saying it's better for the environment. And early on, there really weren't necessarily as many agencies that would regulate that term on what that means. Supermarket's a great example. When you see the package and it's telling you it's healthy, and you flip it over, you're like, this does not help.
All right, you're getting us off topic. I have a point.
I was worried you didn't have a point, so I was giving you an out.
No, I have a point. I actually did some research. But I do want your opinion. But before the LED, and this is just my contractor's view of it, before the LEED credits were becoming a big deal,
right?
In my neck of the woods in the Southeast, Crossville porcelain was the only one I could get LEED credits on. And what has happened?
Was it because where it was the distance, or it was what it was made of? Okay.
Because the distance. They positioned their plant intentionally or unintentionally. It's been there forever. It was close to several major cities.
Right.
What, in my opinion, not in my opinion, but tell me what has happened to that area of Tennessee. What's there now?
Just it's a little Modena. It's like a mini Italy.
It is. And there's several factories that are Italian owned that have now planted roots in that part of the country. And so my tie to this is, and you tell me if I'm making too big of a stretch, this green initiative push, we were able to focus on a solution for that was domestic, and the import or exporters to America saw that maybe there was taking market share because of this, and they placed factories in very similar places so that they could take back some of that market share they lost because of the green initiative. Do you think that's a logical conclusion?
That's absolutely, because it does tie into what we talked about before with the freight and energy costs. It costs money to put something on a boat, right, and send it over here. So I think some of that, I think it's really, it's interesting, Craig. We're probably going to spell it out here on the Tile Happy Hour. It's really 3 segments: the U.S., I'm going to make the statement now. The U.S. tile industry has three sectors to it. One was the green initiative,
Mm-hmm.
and there was the energy issue, and now there's the tariff issue. And all three are kind of, there's a meeting, tomorrow morning somewhere about, we don't have a factory in the U.S. We need to build one, or we have a factory in the U.S. and because of this tariff uncertainty, even though we feel it's probably going to resolve itself, it could happen again, 2 years from now, or 5 years from now. So I think anybody that's here now, it's a lot easier because when you have a footprint here already, you can expand your footprint, right? You can just add.
It's easy to add lines to an existing factory.
Yeah, you add a line. A lot of these factories are not like in dense cities. There's property they could add, add some more space. So I feel, and that's why I'm not really worried about what's going on. Of course, there's turmoil, and there's always eggs will be broken. People will be impacted negatively, and I feel for those people and those companies that do that, particularly the smaller ones, because a small company, it's like a little shake up could really shake you up a lot.
Correct.
But yeah, I think the U.S. tile production industry, particularly of the European, I mean, there was a whole tile industry years ago that was producing 4 1/4 tiles, right? Basic 4x4 tiles.
Yeah.
And that kind of went to Mexico for the most part, right? And the products aren't used as much, so there's different. The demand was different, but yeah, I think you're onto something there, Craig.
And the term and the reason I wanted to have this conversation with you is something that I hear all the time in the things. Do not let your heart be troubled. We figured it out when the environmental thing came through. We figured that out. We figured out how to make that work. And I would say, I don't have the data, but if we look back on it, we're probably all more profitable in the end. We figured it out on the energy sector, and we're gonna figure it out on the tariffs. And my McRib, the McRib here.
Yes.
Whether you love it or hate it, and I've never had one because I don't think I can eat pressed meat that looks like ribs. I don't have any problem eating ribs, but to have pressed meat that looks like ribs is just an abomination to me. I have a friend that they love it, and I tell you, when McDonald's announced that they were not going to do it anymore, I don't remember what year it was. It was probably like 2014. He was distraught, and he didn't know what to do.
I have a buddy that he was devastated as well. And are they still doing this ploy where they reintroduce it for short periods of time?
Yes, I did the research.
Brilliant.
And
brilliant.
McDonald's will release it. They will give their stores permission to release it in a certain time period once a year. And how does? Go ahead. Ask your question.
I was gonna say, I don't know this for a fact, and I'm gonna say this is just not fact, but it's possible that whatever McRibs didn't sell last year, they're still sitting in the closet somewhere. And they're just gonna heat them up.
I'm not just gonna heat them up again. That may be true. That may be true. But what I wanted to anybody that's listening to this, and if you made it this far, we're thankful for you. We love you, and please follow us, hit subscribe, all those good things. But just like I can't control when the McRib comes out or it gets released, or the price of it or any of that things, we all can only control our reach. And most of the time, and most people that are listening to this can't control the tariffs. We can only control our 20 square feet, our household. And that's what I want to say to you today is don't be troubled. Just take it as it comes. Make the best decisions you can with the data that you have right now. And if the data changes, change your decisions. And it's going to be okay. We've done it before. We've been in worse places before. And we've succeeded, and that I wanted to encourage everybody today in the tile and stone industry. If you're not in the tile and stone industry, control what you can control, do the right thing, answer conflict with truth, and you're going to be okay. We're all going to be okay.
I agree with that. And I want to put a little context outside of the tile industry. So you're talking about control, right? What you can control.
Yeah.
Back in 2007, 2008, there was, the beginning of this recession, right?
Mhm.
And that came about because of structural issues with our economy, subprime mortgages and loans, a lot of funny business that was going on in the financial world that just exploded, right? It
Blew
surfaced,
up,
and
yeah.
and you couldn't fix it. So no administrator, no president could step in then and say, I have the solution. A lot of chips had to fall. A lot of people had to go belly up. A lot of bankruptcies, a lot of jobs were lost, et cetera, et cetera. This time, it's really good news because what's happening now is, I'm going to use this word, and it sounds negative, but it's not. It's self-inflicted. Right now, the current administration is taking a path that feels that they have a solution. In order to get to the solution, this is what you need to get 100 countries to come to
Mhm.
the table to basically say, okay, potentially, we're going to now cut our tariff rates to America as long as you reciprocate. And but now you can now sell cars in this country. Now you can export beef to that country.
Mhm.
So now so what I'm trying to say is we hold the cards for two reasons. Because of when I say we, America, we are the consumers of the world. And sometimes embarrassingly so, right? We buy like something on Instagram or TikTok that
Yes.
you don't need another gadget to slice an onion, right? You have a knife and you need, all these different things that you need to buy to slice and dice and julienne. So we buy too much. But hey, it's our money, it's America. And if you have the money, you want to buy something, do it. We are the consumers of America. So for the most part, all these countries that produce, their local market is not as strong as the American market. They make
Right.
things to sell to the United States. We are in control. And I do honestly feel that now that turmoil has happened, and again, it was self-inflicted. It is temporary. The 90-day. You notice when a 90-day pause was announced, the stock market rebounded and is on an upswing now. It's because of it, the stock market's a whole nother conversation. They just
Yeah.
like predictability, right? They want to know what's happening. So I'm going to echo your enthusiasm, Craig. This is going to be resolved at the end of this podcast. This may be resolved. It's going to be, if there's going to be a 0-0 tariff between 100 countries, or 5% each way, or 10% each way, whatever it is, it's going to be a known number. It's going to be easily absorbable. And if a U.S. factory can now make something cheaper because of this new 5% tariff or 10% tariff or 0%, then that U.S. factory needs to adjust their prices, or the factory in Europe, whatever, needs to, or India needs to adjust their prices to meet the competition. So I think it'll be more of a level playing field. And I do feel now the China factor is different because, it's a little more antagonistic, right? The relationship.
Yeah.
So I think that's a number. But again, China produces a lot of product that goes to the United States.
Mhm.
And although they're playing hardball, both sides are playing hardball now, I do feel it's going to get better, not worse. And we're going to be in good shape. Everyone just hang tight. And it's for sure within 90 days will be resolved, if not sooner.
I agree with you. I think so. And that was really the reason I wanted to talk about this. I know that some people are stressing over it, and
Yeah.
I understand that. Rightly so. I've owned a business before, and like you said, the small business owners are everything they have wrapped up in there. But let's figure it out. Make the best decisions we can. We can only control so much, and I'm with you. I agree. I think we're going to come through this, and I'm optimistic. And the
Look,
tile is
worst case
going to.
scenario, Craig, people just come to the tile happy hour and we'll talk about tile. So this is home, folks. Just come
That's
here.
right.
We'll talk and chat. Craig and I will have a chat, and you're welcome to chime in. Send it. Hey, we've been getting a ton of messages. People messaging us offline, it's through the podcast, through our social media. So yeah, continue sending those messages. All of Craig's fan mail. It's just very hard to keep up with. So send send the messages, send the questions. We do answer all our questions, most of them offline now because it's just hard to work it into the show. But yeah, we're here for you. This is the Tile Happy Hour. And, we'd love to continue the conversation here on our podcast live in Orlando. And we're really excited to be part of this community. And Craig, I thank you for your insight. And I just like to wish everybody peace, health, and happiness.
I reiterate all that. My Instagram handle is under my head. John's is under his. We're probably check it too much, but yeah, we love to get your questions. We love to hear you. Hope to see you in hold on. Come to the podcast. We'll get you one of these. You can be
cool.
An official tile nerd.
Right.
It's only got my face on it, so you have to take a picture with John to get his face.
We only have one sticker. We'll take a picture of it with you, and then we'll pass it around.
That's right. We only have one of them. But as always, just stay calm, carry on, take a breath, control what's around you. It's all going to be okay. And let's keep learning together and tile the world.